Well, I'd like to start with, I'm Jim Bruner. I do work for the PASS Foundation. I also live at Mezzacello, and I'm a human being. And I was 7 minutes late because I'm a human being. And I was literally working on my presentation when my good friend Julie said, "Hey, did you know you were on at 5?" So kids around the world, we're all human and things happen. And here I am. So I will now start my presentation, which is here. And I will go up and begin. So Colleen, Julie, can you see this? Great. All right, so this is me in my garden that Julie referenced. I live in Columbus, Ohio, which is in the middle of the United States, almost in the direct middle of the North American continent on this planet. And behind me is the invention, one invention over 3 years is the name of this, that I am using to explore the intersection between robots, sensors, energy production, systems integration, and farming, because farming is my goal. And this invention is something I call, and I've been talking about this for 3 years because I have literally been inventing this for 3 years. It's called the bioreactor, and it provides me power and communications, compost that I use to grow food. It collects water, both from rain and from the atmosphere, with a screen that collects dew in the morning and captures that water as fresh water. Fertilizer comes out the bottom, and data comes out the top because it's studied with 19 data sensors, from weather all the way down to motion and infrared. So a little bit about Mezzacello. That's my yard that Julie referenced. I call it Mezzacello. It's like Monticello with robots. And if you're from someplace else in the world, Monticello is a farm that was started by the second president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, who's a hero of mine. And I loved a lot of his ideas, but I thought we could do that better if we applied technology and systems integration and some robots. And so I just started doing it. And my job at the PASS Foundation really makes that easy for me. And so at the PASS Foundation, I am the Sultan of Systems. Here at Mezzacello, I am the alpha animal because I make everything happen and I make room for all life. So this is information you might want to look at. I'm not going to read it. All of you, I assume, can read. So at Mezzacello, the bioreactor in my urban farm, which is in a downtown city, mind you, it's not a traditional farm, serves 4 urban issues. Pests and rodents. It controls that. It manages manure. It conducts and collects electricity without electrocuting people. Super important. And it follows the law, because the moment you start messing with manure and electricity, the city wants to know why. So just so you know, if you decide to do this, you better have good answers. All of these I do with the basic system that Julie and the Global Invention Field Trip, called Scamper. I call it the design cycle. Identify a problem, brainstorm it, research it, design it, build it, step back. Does it work? Yes, great. If not, modify it. Once it works, share that information, and here we are. So, to build a bioreactor, I had to go through the design cycle 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because every iteration was wrong until I said what was wrong, and I brought new information, and I tried something new. And that's what this presentation is about. If you're a kid and you want to make something happen, which I think is going to happen on the 29th, and I'm super excited about, this is how you go about making that happen. So the first thing I need you to know about Mezzacello is, yes, it is a yard. Yes, it is in a city. And yes, it is a farm. But most importantly, it's an ecosystem. And if you don't know what an ecosystem is, it's a piece of land that has all the elements in it that allows every bit of life to exist seamlessly. No one has to fight. No one has to struggle. Yes, things die. Yes, things live, but they do it in balance. And balance is key. So in an ecosystem, there are no wastes. There are new inputs. So reframe poop as new input. You have to have systems for all life to exist. You can't hope that one form of life doesn't exist and want everything else to be cool. We need mosquitoes. They're annoying, but we need them. We need raccoons and possums. In North America, these are pests that we have, but we need them. You can't just get rid of them. And we need energy, but you have to understand energy has costs, and it's a seasonal thing. You'll get more energy in the summer because there's more sunlight. You'll get less energy in the winter because literally our planet is tilted away from the sun and we don't get as much energy. In this part of our planet, we don't get as much energy. If you are in the southern hemisphere, hats off to you. The sun is coming to be your friend. I'm cool with that. So this is the bioreactor, this device behind me. And these are my specific issues that iteration 7 of the bioreactor actually solves. 1, biomass, health codes, and legal variances. Because I am dealing with things that the health department, and the health department, if you don't know, is a system that the city has to make sure that people are safe. They are terrified of my bioreactor. So I've had to submit everything from applications and permits to CAD drawings to affidavits saying this is not nuclear. I'm only using the word reactor to say it does something. It handles electrical loads, both solar and wind and battery. It handles animals. It has lasers and ultrasonic sensors that scare animals away when it sees them, and I don't want them. They can come back when I don't want them, but when I know I have sensitive things going on, like baby chicks, no raccoons. And lastly, it obeys all laws. So this is what the 4th iteration, number 4, of the bioreactor looked like. I was at a restaurant talking with a friend, and I said, I needed to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And they were like, you're insane. How are you going to do all that? And I just borrowed a pen from the waitress and drew it on this napkin. And this napkin was in the trash, and I picked it up and put it down and said, no, I'm going to need this. This is my first CAD drawing. CAD is computer-aided design, but here I was the computer. The napkin was just a piece of paper. So it manages those 3 pests and make sure I'm legal with these 4 systems. It recycles everything, including raccoons. It manages and collects water and waste. It collects data and weather systems. And if the weather says I don't need water, it doesn't release water. And lastly, it's got a series of sensors on it that tell me everything from weather, temperature, pressure, light, motion, and thermal registers to Wi-Fi and 5G access. And 5G, I borrow from the city because I live in downtown Columbus, and I can borrow a 5G signal off one of the towers downtown. And by the way, one of the sensors here detects motion above me. So when there are helicopters, I can put noise suppressing software on in my hen house so that they don't panic. And when there are falcons flying above from the skyscrapers, 10 blocks to my east, it automatically warns me on my phone. And again, it puts out a sonic warning, and all the ducks and chickens that live on my farm go into my coop. It is a central information processing system. Okay, so for research reference, this is all the things that I just said it does. Wi-Fi repeater, weather data, atmospheric sensors, wind turbines, security, drone. Oh, I didn't mention the drone. It also, when falcons are circling above, And by the way, a falcon and a hawk have a very unique infrared signature, just so you know. It's different from a pigeon and different from a sparrow. And when they appear, the drones launch. And when the drones launch, all they do is go up 1.7 meters and land again. And that's enough to scare hawks away for a half an hour. It doesn't cost me anything to do that. And that drone, that's all it does. It looks like crap. It's been pooped on. The sun has bleached it, but its only job is to go 5 meters into the air and come back down when it senses an infrared signature of a hawk at a speed that is dangerous. If it's a helicopter, it doesn't care. Helicopters don't release a lot of infrared temperature. Hawks do. And if you've ever seen a hawk attack a chicken, you would have a drone on top of your bioreactor as well. And then, of course, the solar and wind turbines. And now this is the evolution, the 7 evolutions of the bioreactor. Boom, compost. I need more. That's not enough. Okay, better compost. But the city says this isn't legal. Okay, I'll collect compost and I'll put it someplace else. Not convenient. I don't use it as often because it's not where I need it. Humans need what they need where they are. That's why we have farms. That's why we have barns. That's why we live in cities. I happen to live on a farm that is in a city. So I started this system of composting in what are called intermediate beverage containers. And they're basically 1,000-liter containers made of plastic with a steel cage. And one day I said, why don't I just get multiple of these and turn these into compost bins? And they're free because people want to get rid of them because they don't know what to do with them. And if you're an inventor, you figure out what to do with something that no one else wants. And so I got 5 of these and I just stacked them up in my backyard and turned them into compost piles. And then, as you saw on that napkin, I said, let's build a tower. So I learned how to weld and I learned how to build a tower. And I convinced my friends, help me build this 3-meter tall tower so I can put 1,000 liters of water 2 meters up in the air to pressurize the water and do everything I needed to do. And now that created 7,000 liters of compost in 2 years. I will say that again, 7,000 liters of compost in 2 years with my accelerant. And this system is so efficient because what the bioreactor does is it takes beer, like people drink, soda, like people drink, and ammonia, and it cycles them in with water in that tank above, and it rains on the compost. And at the bottom, it drains out. And when it drains out, there's a sensor that says, go back up to the top and rain again. And so it continues to rain down this accelerant that processes the compost, and it turns the compost that I started with in picture 1, it does that work, which took 6 months. It takes 40 days to make compost with the bioreactor. 40 days. And this is young children and a very, very expensive insurance policy testing that the bioreactor actually does work. This is 30 days after we started processing biomass in the bioreactor, and they are taking samples of heat, they are taking samples of pH, and they are taking samples of nitrogen, and they're all at where they should be. So in about, well, actually, before the 29th, I will pull this out and put another one in, because this system, I designed it originally to exist on Mars so that we could build these, send them to Mars, make dirt, and when the colonists arrive, the robots have built thousands and thousands and thousands of liters of dirt. That was my original plan. But first, I needed to know if it would work. And so I had to go through this evolution process to test it. So how I use it today and how I use it tomorrow are 2 different things. But how I'm using it today, 4 ways. 1, I want to teach with it. I want other kids telling me what I could do better. And if you think you can tell me how I could do better, these ears are really big and they listen really well. Two, I want to provide community resources because this could be built anywhere, on the 90th floor in Singapore, in the poorest neighborhood of Mumbai, or on Mars, or in downtown Columbus, on a playground. It doesn't matter. It is a self-sustainable system. It doesn't need anything other than compost, electricity, and water, and all of that can exist on that tower. And the fourth thing, I want to create high quality soil and water. So this is the bioreactor. This is the community resources. This is the control center for the bioreactor. What? You thought everything would be controlled on the tower itself? It has to be controlled somewhere. So I built a shed to control it. I can control 7 bioreactors in this one shed. Remember, everything is wireless. It doesn't need to be in my yard. I could control 7 of them in this shed. And this is a portable data station that runs off this bioreactor on wheels that I can run anywhere. Again, that tower on top, that gray tower on top, is a 5G wireless repeater. As long as I'm within 3 kilometers of that bioreactor, whatever data is coming in on that system, I will get. And lastly, I want to test soils. I want to test Martian soil. I want to test different configurations of soils. This allows me to do that. So if you're curious, why wind turbines? This is a spring windstorm in Columbus, Ohio. There was so much power being generated by that bioreactor, I had to put it into the ground because my batteries were overheating. And I had a control mechanism that said, too much power. So literally, it went into the ground because these are extremely efficient wind turbines. And so that is the story of the wind turbines and how much power they can generate. And I actually need more batteries if I want to use more of these turbines. I currently have 6. I need 12. And all of those are going to have to be replaced in 3 years. That's where we are in battery technology right now. We need better batteries. So what is a sustainable ecosystem? It's a balance. 1, 2. My yard, this is a drone footage from the hawk cam that scares the hawks and falcons away. And this is an ecosystem. These 2 pictures are the same thing. They are a closed system where everything has a purpose and is reliant on each other. And I could talk about 1,000 things in my yard, but I have 25 minutes. And so future plans, if we live on Mars, we are going to have pressurized domes. So this is my grandson in a pressurized dome that I adore. He's just so cute. This is the pressurized dome I built this summer. Unfortunately, in Columbus, Ohio, it kept shooting up to 42 degrees Celsius and nothing would grow. So, and every time I tried to cool it, it drained all my batteries. So I need a better system. So this summer, this spring, winter, spring, and summer, I'll be designing a better system of biodome and a new hydroponic system that uses less power. I'll be modifying my soil building networks and adding more wind turbines to capture wind from buses that go down the street in front of me. Because if you haven't stood next to a bus, there's a lot of wind that buses generate, and it's going to waste right now, and I don't see why it should. And of course, more systems for managing food, methane sequestration, and power. And that's my presentation. Thank you. And this is Jim Bruner, the Sultan of Systems and Alpha Animal at Mezzacello, and that was my presentation on the bioreactor. If you have any questions, please.
Good job.
Please.
I have some questions.
Okay.
One comes from Ms. Amy Calhoun, who is watching you right now.
Oh, bravo.
She wants to know if you use light beer or IPA.
Well, actually, she asked, I use whatever people give me because I don't want to buy it. And it's a weight. I have to open every can. So if I get like a 24 pack, and a lot of bars, actually, I mean, I know this is a kids program, but adults drink beer. A lot of bars, the beer goes out of date, so they just want to get rid of it. But it's a real pain to open the cans, and then I have to recycle the cans. So this summer, I'm actually going to be making my own beer, which is super easy to do. Apple juice and yeast.
Yeah, my husband has made his own beer for years and years and years. I was just going to say that if he has a batch that doesn't work out quite right, I can make sure to let you know. You could use that. Love your graphics, by the way. Who created your person there that looks just like you, Jim?
Isn't that lovely?
Did you do that, or one of your kids?
No, one of the young men I interned with, one of my mentees, drew that up of me one day on a napkin of all things. Loved it, and he did a vector drawing of it and gave it to me, and I think it's adorable because it captures the Bruner form really well, and I use it as all my presentations now. So.
You know, I'm gonna promote a student early. He's our student co-host for the next sessions, but he sent a note and wants to know how he can get involved in your program. So I'm going to go ahead and pull Sid up. But I did have a couple more questions while we waited for him. Do you have your own city rep by now? Somebody you go to every time you want to do something different to say, before I do this, am I breaking rules, laws, or anything else?
Yes, Dr. Messer is on speed dial. He's my city veterinarian. Yeah, and I also have my next door neighbor behind me works for the permits office, and I run things by him. I'm like, Steve, is this going to pass? Should I say anything in the application? And he advises me. But I mean, I do everything legally and I do everything thoughtfully. So I don't do anything that would risk anything. But I do have people I rely on to tell me, Bruner, you're insane. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
And I want to point out to those students who think you can invent something and it's done, first time out. You're on which iteration? Are you on 7, did you say? 7. And you still have a long way to go because you want to keep making it better and better and better. So it's okay to things don't work out right, because then when you do fix them, they work even better than you suspected they would. One other question for you. You talked about these very cool drones, and what a great idea. I'm thinking of my sister's chicken coops that she has in Maryland and thinking that's what she needs, because things get picked off. Of course, when you're involved with chickens, you also have things digging. But do you have to change adjustments now and then on those? I mean, do the hawks figure out after a while about those drones, and so you have to alter things, or they just don't figure it out?
No, they don't figure it out. And one thing I left out is the secret ingredient to the drone, and I'm on my 3rd drone now, just so you know, because of the sun and rain. But I have the drone tied to a 1.5 meter piece of string. So it's designed to go straight up until it can't anymore. And then it either or it falls, and I come home and I find the drone on the side of the bioreactor, and I just put it back up there, and it still works.
Very cool. Yeah. That would be a very cool idea.
But the hawks are tired of the noise. It's the noise.
Oh, I see. So I want to introduce you to Sid. Have you met Sid in the past? Sid is a repeat host and presenter here, but he's hosting it in about 8 minutes. But he said, he sent this little chat and said, I want to know how I can get involved. So Sid, why don't you reintroduce yourself to Jim Bruner real quick, and then ask whatever questions you would like to ask him.
So my name is Siddharth Vikram. I am 9 years old and 4th grade, and I have a question. How can I help you and be involved in this project?
I'm glad you asked, Sid, because I foolishly neglected to put my website on my slides. The name of my farm is Mezzacello, Mezzacello, 2 L's O. Mezzacello.org is my website.
Put it in chat real quick, Jim, and I'll put it on our YouTube page too.
I'll throw it up on YouTube too, because I'm watching that on a delay. But if you go to Mezzacello.org, Sid, every single experiment and invention I do is on Mezzacello.org. So you can track the evolution of what I'm doing, and if it succeeded or if it failed. I don't leave anything out. Failure is a necessary part of invention. If you don't fail, you will not be better. If all you do is succeed, you'll stop asking questions. And that is death to innovation. never stop asking questions. So I list my failures right alongside my successes because it's important. But you can help me by letting me know what you think. Send me an email, look at some of my research, and come up with an idea for how you think I could keep that biodome cooler, or better ways that I could scare hawks away that don't require lasers, because in my city and in my country, it's actually illegal to fire lasers into the air. Don't ask me.
Well, you could just shine bright lights. Does that count as lasers?
I said I live 8 blocks away from a trauma hospital, and that's a hospital that has helicopters flying into it. And if I shine lights up, it can interfere with them arriving at the hospital, and I will lose all of my money.
Plus, he has neighbors. He really does live in a downtown housing community with neighbors on all sides of him.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I can't use ultrasonic either because all the dogs hate me. I tried it. Every dog in my neighborhood for 3 blocks was barking all night, and I never did that again.
So
But that's fair.
Sid, if you get involved and you do anything with Jim, and just on a lark, you and your parents come out someday to see his farm in person, know that I only live about 20 minutes from Jim, so you better tell me.
Wait,
And I'll be taking you to lunch. We're in Ohio.
okay, I did not know that. You should have told me.
Okay, well, when you come to Ohio, I need to know those things.
Yeah.
Or if you, I bet if you go to Arizona, Colleen will want you.
Yeah,
to
I was gonna
her.
say, Sid, if you're going to Ohio, I'm going to Ohio. I gotta have lunch with Sid. I mean, that's on my top 10 list of things to
He
do in
might
life.
let you come with us.
Okay.
Maybe if it's the right time of year, Jim can grow us a few things to eat for lunch.
Yeah.
The hydroponics go in the basement as well. I don't need light for that.
There you go. Mushrooms it is.